Today's video is sponsored by Game Master's Book of Legendary Dragons. I just realized that I haven't had a dragon as a main encounter in any of my games in years, which is 100% my fault. But is it because dragons are too basic? Not anymore. The Game Master's Book of Legendary Dragons has more than 24 truly epic beasts, each of which comes with a complete backstory, a history, motivations, lair actions, legendary combat actions, and more. These creatures are designed to be a worthy focus to any campaign, whether as a mind-blowing BBEG for an unforgettable high-level climax, or as a motivating force that runs in the background of a lower-level adventure. Game Masters will also find new dragonkin, drakes, kobolds, and dragon races, plus new dragon-related organizations, skills, classes, and magic, including dragon riders, dragon hunters, enhanced spells, aerial combat and airship options, dragon cults, magic items, and more, including 3 complete one-shot adventures. Don't be like me. Let's keep dragons in Dungeons & Dragons. Click the link for Legendary Dragons and other books in the Game Master series available now on Amazon.com. And now what you're here for. Neckbeard thinks my bisexual D&D character is too political. The game, Dragon of Icespire Peak. The cast, DM, the Dungeon Master, guy with a little bit of experience as a player but a first-time DM. Struggled at time to keep all the plates spinning, but overall did alright for his first time. Ronnie, Elf Rogue, and this story's problem player. Alex, Tiefling Bard, and the main recipient of the problem player's problems. Joker, funny dude, race and class don't matter. Me, human female sorceress. Our DM sets the stage of our first session by having us go into Phandolin's tavern one at a time as a sort of character introduction scene. The first person into the tavern is Ronnie, and he proceeds to find a dark corner to quietly observe everyone else from. I don't like the dark, brooding, loner rogue cliche, but at least Ronnie was role-playing it, so I was optimistic. Still better than a flavorless I fire my bow, bonus action hide approximation of a character. Next, Alex's Tiefling Bard enters the tavern with a bit of a flourish, sits down at the bar and orders a drink. But before Alex can pay, Ronnie has jumped up from their corner and offers to pay for the pretty lady's drink. Alex hadn't been described as good-looking, mind you. It's a trope for high charisma characters, but good looks and charisma don't have to go hand in hand. What Alex's player also didn't mention was the character's gender. Alex's player is female, but actually, Alex is a guy, she explained, but thanks for the drink, handsome. I've always been partial to the dark, mysterious type. Ronnie's player was mortified at accidentally flirting with another male character, and quickly had him slink back into a shadowy corner. When my character, who I described as rather beautiful and elegantly dressed, sat down next to Alex, he gave a similar flirtatious introduction. Oh wow, look at you. Bards up and down the Sword Coast must sing songs of your beauty. Before I could respond, Ronnie's player had to speak up. Wait, I thought Alex was gay. Why was he hitting on me if he's into chicks? I was a bit taken aback by this response, but I think Alex's player was more used to it, and coolly explained that Alex is bisexual. You never know who you're going to encounter, so I wanted to keep the roleplay options as open as possible. Ronnie then said, yeah, okay, whatever, but can we keep real-world politics out of the game? This is supposed to be a light adventure. Yeah, apparently being bisexual is not a personal sexual identity, but rather a political stance. The air was a bit tense, but our fourth player, Joker, came in. I sit down at the bar next to the pretty sorceress lady and the pretty tiefling man, take off my blue math cap, and stow it in my bag as a sign of respect to the tavern keep. If you're confused, he was making a reference to Democratic politician Andrew Yang. After the introductions, we're off to our first quest, delivering word of a dangerous dragon in the area to a nearby midwife. She's being harassed by a manticore. We scare it off, and it's pretty basic level 1 stuff. Ronnie tells us to go talk to the midwife while he patrols on the edge of the forest in case the manticore comes back. I object that we shouldn't split the party, but Ronnie insists, I'm sure you're more than capable of handling an old woman. Actually, the DM chimes in, Adabra Gwyn is relatively young, and somewhat attractive if you like that wholesome farmer's daughter thing. At this point, Ronnie suddenly agrees that splitting the party is a bad idea, and he wants to be the one to talk to Adabra to make sure she doesn't try to cheat us or anything. We're just here to deliver a message, I explained, and it should be Alex to take the lead because of her high social stats. The others agreed, and Ronnie went back to his loner patrol. Next, we took on the Gnomon Guard quest. The gnome settlement is ruled by a pair of married kings, which really got under Ronnie's skin. I thought we agreed no real-world politics, he said. Look, it's in the module, the DM replied, and gave us their canonical names. Besides, the DM continued, 2 kings married doesn't sound like real-world politics. Sounds more like fantasy politics. It's not like it says one of the kings cheated on his previous king with a porn star. Someone suggested we get back to the quest because some of the loot sounded cool, and we were able to move on. A bit later, though, Ronnie opined, I think out of character, but looking back, I'm not certain. I wonder if there could even be gay tieflings. We all responded with silence, which he took as an opportunity to elaborate. Tieflings are the intentional creation of demons to propagate a demonic bloodline. They wouldn't make gay tieflings since that would defeat the entire purpose. I don't think it works like that, the DM said. There'd probably be lesbian tieflings, though, Ronnie continued, because historically lesbian women have still been married off and bore children, so it really wouldn't matter. We probably should have said something to Ronnie about this, maybe even talked about booting him from the game, but none of us are particularly confrontational, and this was at the very end of the session, so the DM just said we're at a good point to wrap up and see y'all next week. I'll admit I think there's an interesting question here. What differences would we find among purposefully created races, as opposed to those that evolved over millions of years? Those races might be rather different from humans in terms of sex and gender, depending on the purpose they were created for, but it's certainly not a discussion I'd get into with Ronnie. That was really the worst of it, but there was an air of awkwardness for the rest of the campaign. Alex, Joker, and I are getting along with plenty of jokes between us, and Ronnie uninterested in anything unless he thought there was a chance for slay, pay, or lay. At one point, he even tried to flirt with the ghost of a sea elf we were trying to put at ease. A ghost. Flirting with a distraught, accursed ghost. Dude either needs a Pornhub account, or he needs to delete his Pornhub account. Not sure which. And as a sidebar, if you've played Ice Spy or Peak, then you know that you do not flirt with the ghost because she will give you crabs. The campaign eventually came to a conclusion with us defeating the titular dragon of Ice Spy or Peak. We raided its dragon horde and made our way back down to Phandalin, returning as ice-conquering heroes. Who's in the tavern when we get back? Ronnie asked. I'm not sure why, the DM responded. Well, it's normal for the hero to get the girl at the end of the story, right? I guess that's a common trope, but Phandalin is a small town, only 100 or so people, so it's kinda slim pickings. Ronnie and his player both sulked, as the other three of us regaled the near-empty tavern with tales of our conquest. The DM then hit us with an epilogue he homebrewed. 3 days later, as we're recovering from our post-victory hangovers, a half a dozen very ornate carriages come into town. The Lord of Neverwinter has heard of our conquest and sent one of the middling nobles down. Count it matters not. Along with him came several knights and lords and ladies from the royal court. This got Ronnie's attention real quick. He got himself out of the shadows and rushed up to Count Who Cares, obviously hoping he could make a good impression and woo a noblewoman. Count No One Remembers the Name asked about the source of the treasure, and Ronnie bragged about killing a fearsome dragon. He asked about the amount of treasure, and Ronnie boasted loudly of his wealth. Count Forget About It asked to confirm the treasure was from the dragon's hoard, and Ronnie again just boasted about his heroism and wealth. Then Count Didn't Take Notes informed us that by royal decree signed 10 years ago, Lord Never Remember has claimed 30% of any hoard of a slain dragon, and we would all need to pay our adventuring taxes. The rest of us thought this was a funny way to end. The campaign was over, so we couldn't use the money anyways. Ronnie was not having it though. He tried every angle he could think of to argue why his imaginary money shouldn't be subject to an imaginary tax. Phandalin is a poor town, he said. People should be happy to have us here spending our coin. If I'm taxed, I'll just take the rest, go to another city and spend it there. But if I stay and spend the money, everyone here will prosper over time. Roll persuasion, the DM said. But before he could, Alex chimed in. Wait, I don't think that's allowed. Everyone was confused because it's not like this is covered in the rules. Why not? I can make a persuasion check, Ronnie said. It's against the house rules, Alex answered. The DM did not have a clue. What house rules? This isn't PvP. He's trying to persuade an NPC. This sounds a lot like Reaganomics and Trickle-Down, Alex said, and we agreed there'd be no real-world politics in the game. What? That's not what But Joker cut off Ronnie mid-rant. Hey DM, can I use my money to set up a sort of fund that pays everyone in Phandalin a small amount at the start of every month? You mean UBI? Universal Basic Income, Ronnie asked. That's real-world politics too. If I can't argue my way out of taxes, he shouldn't be able to have UBI. Technically, Joker said, UBI really only exists in Andrew Yang's imagination, so it's more fantasy politics than anything real. Yeah, okay, I'll allow it, DM said. And the taxes? Ronnie asked. I'll have to think about it. It's getting late and we're past our normal end time. Joker, Alex, and I thank the DM for running a great campaign. Later, I asked the DM about what he decided on the taxes. I booted Ronnie from the server, then seized his gold and used it to fund Neverwinter's first shelter for LGBT tiefling youth. Get your real-world politics out of D&D, and be mature enough to identify what isn't real-world politics. This story is like trying to enjoy Thanksgiving with my crazy uncle. Tell us about a game where someone brought in too much of the real world into your fun fantasy setting. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, All Things D&D. Stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.